Well, more witnesses are expected to take the stand tomorrow for the prosecution in the trial of Gregory Bell, charged with murder for the fatal beating of Tia Hudson in 2022.
The case was the first murder in the small Montague County town of St. Joe since 1986, and testimony began this morning after a jury was seated last night.
Josh Hoggard has been in the 97th District Courtroom in Montague today. He's joining us live from the courthouse with a wrap-up of today's proceedings. Josh?
Yeah, guys, the 8 men and 4 women of this jury saw its first wave of witnesses today in the trial of a man accused of a murder that stunned the small Montague County city of St. Joe. After opening statements from Prosecutor Paige McCormick with the 97th District Attorney's Office and Bell's defense attorney Bob Estrada this morning, the first witnesses were called to the stand, including Gary Powers, Hudson's neighbor, who found her badly beaten and clinging to life in the early morning hours of August 5th, 2022. Powers testified that he and Hudson were friends and co-workers, and that she had spoken to him about her often threatening and abusive relationship with Bell, adding that on one occasion she said Bell had broken her nose, and that he had been at Hudson's house just one night prior on August 4th, 2022, helping her fix her bedroom door that she said Bell had smashed in, and that he stayed with her to make sure she was safe from Bell if he were to return. Powers spent most of the morning and the first half of the afternoon on the stand, recalling how Hudson was bleeding from her head and how he found a flashlight near her with blood on it. Then Sergeant Philip Thomas with the St. Joe Fire and EMS was called to testify. He responded to Hudson's residence on Main Street in St. Joe, finding her unresponsive with no eye movement, indicating to him that she'd suffered severe brain damage, and adding that he immediately knew it was Hudson because, quote, "In a small town, we all pretty much know everyone," a reminder of the impact Hudson's murder had on this community. The day's final witness, Dr. Chance Dingler from Nakona General Hospital, who testified he attended to Hudson when she arrived. He testified that her injuries were, quote, "the worst he's ever seen other than an open skull trauma." He testified that he immediately wanted Hudson transported to a higher level trauma center because he also feared she suffered severe brain damage that might require emergency surgery if she had any chance to survive. Before he left the stand, he testified that he believed Hudson's injuries were caused by a blunt object, and they would have required a tremendous amount of force. More witnesses are expected to take the stand for the prosecution over the next several days, including Hudson's son, Trevor Riley, who's been in the courtroom since testimony began. Proceedings are set to resume on Thursday morning. Now, the similarities between this case and the 1986 murder of Frank Collier in St. Joe are shocking, but perhaps even more so, the connections between those two that have surfaced as this trial has gone on today. I spoke with a member of the public who was in the courtroom just watching testimony today, and he told me he's a retired DPS trooper who used to serve in this area, and he was actually the one who responded to the produce store in St. Joe in 1986, and he was the one who found Collier. And then maybe even more interesting than that, we mentioned earlier Bell's defense attorney, Rob Estrada, was also the defense attorney of Clifford Bogus when he was tried for Collier's murder. Now, Estrada, the prosecution, and the jury will all be back in the courtroom tomorrow when testimony gets back underway in the morning, guys.
Connections there indeed. Okay, Josh, thank you so much for that live report. I know you'll be there as well first thing in the morning.